Hey everybody, what's up? Yeah, you can see that there's a movie in front of you, and you can see up there, this is a special Christmas edition of Movie of the Month. We haven't had one of these in a while, so I figured, why not try for it now? And the reason I show you this movie is because it's the Movie of the Month for this year, for this Christmas season of 2012. And as you can see the title, it's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the movie. Move it back a little bit so you can see more of it. Yes, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the movie. This movie came out about 1999, I believe. It was heavily advertised, believe it or not, on television for a while by Good Times Home Entertainment. Good Times Home Entertainment advertised this through mail offers and 1-800 numbers, and then eventually it started getting around that it was going to get sold in stores. And it did. Now, I wanted to see this because I looked at the animation and I was just blown away by it, but I also wanted to see it because, I've been someone that grew up on Rudolph. I mean, ever since I was a kid, just like last night on CBS, every year, my family and I, me and my sisters, we would watch Rudolph, the original Rudolph Rankin Bass special. The original Rankin Bass Rudolph special on CBS every year. And now that we have our own lives and families, well, my sisters, anyway, they tune it on as well, I think, for their kids to watch. But anyway, every year we would watch that. So when I lived in Oskaloosa, and I lived with my father, I saw that this was being advertised, and I wanted to get it. So, basically, about a little after or so, I ended up getting it. I ended up buying the movie. I don't know if it was after Christmas, I don't know if it was the following year or what it was. I ended up buying the movie and ended up buying the movie. Now, what's funny about this, though, folks, is when they also were selling this movie, they were selling something else. And let me go get that for a second. Hold on. Sorry about that, folks. Sorry about that. I know some people might say, well, you should have stopped and everything. Again, let me explain something. I'm a shooter. I let it go. Okay? Anyway, like I was saying, what was ironic was when this movie came out in 2000, meaning 1999, again, it was being advertised and everything, and of course, when you go to a Walmart and a Walmart or a Save Mart or wherever, or a Target or even a Walgreens or a Kmart, or even the mall itself or Target, when you would see this movie, because I remember seeing it at a Walmart in Topeka, I think it's the Topeka one, I also saw being sold next to it this. That's right. This is the original motion picture soundtrack. This is the soundtrack that got sold next to it. This is the soundtrack. as you could see. And I was surprised by that. I'm thinking, well, it's a direct-to-video movie. It's not going to have a soundtrack or anything, but it did. And it's actually got a good listing of songs, believe it or not. I mean, look at this. I mean, that's a pretty good price. I mean, not price, but that's a pretty good list of stuff, if you ask me. And then when you turn it over, it also shows you what songs there are. It says the story told through the song. And it kind of gives you, the order of how the songs appear. In the movie, that is. So that's pretty neat when you think about it. And then, of course, it's got the background story on it, basically stating, let's see, it says, in producing the first ever feature-length Rudolph motion picture and this special soundtrack album, the creators of the all-new animated musical Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the movie, have built on the grand history of the most famous reindeer of all. The soundtrack features an impressive array of vocal talents from singers Clint Black, the Pointer Sisters, Bill Medley and Jennifer Warnes, to actors John Goodman, Eric Idle, and Academy Award nominee Debbie Reynolds. An original score by Michael Lloyd and Al Kasha. It also includes 2 all-new recordings of the timeless hit Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, plus Wonderful Christmas Time, performed by Paul McCartney and the Wings, and 8 original songs with music and lyrics by Kasha and Lloyd. Kasha has won Academy Awards for songs from The Poseidon Adventure, The Morning After, The Towering Inferno, We May Never Love Like This Again, plus multiple Tony, Grammy, and Golden Globe nominations, while Lloyd, who's produced the soundtrack album, has more than 100 gold and platinum records to his credit. He has worked with such artists as Frank Sinatra, Barry Manilow, Donna Warwick, Lou Rawls, and the Monkees, and has done the scoring/music supervision for more than 70 movies, specials, and television series, which is pretty impressive. Now that's a pretty impressive array of stuff to put into the soundtrack for this movie. It also says at the end, Lloyd offers a fitting tribute to the Red-Nosed Reindeer star. Rudolph brings a smile to your face and a gentle reminder that with a dream in your heart and conviction in your soul, or even a light in your nose, there's nothing you can't accomplish. And then, just like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, you'll go down in history. And he says Merry Christmas at the end. But again, very impressive array for a soundtrack just for a direct-to-video movie. But from what I do understand, this movie did get a theatrical release, but very, very limited. In other words, it's like certain theaters showed it, and then it just left and went to video. So very, very limited release and theatrical release. But to me, it's one of the most, how do I put this? Overlooked. It's one of the most overlooked animated Christmas movies there is. I mean, yeah, people might look at it and say, oh, it's, this and that. But you know what? I like it. I do. I actually got a kick out of it. I mean, I've recorded this onto DVD, and then last night I recorded it onto the DVD with the original Rudolph special. So, again, I like this movie. I do. And why do I like this movie, you might ask? Because of its great animation, and it's just enjoyable to watch. I mean, you got people in there that give the all for this movie. I mean, you got John Goodman, who, in case you don't know, is in that I can't think of it, that Argo movie now. You got Whoopi Goldberg, known for what she's done, Debbie Reynolds, Bob Newhart. I mean, what more can you go? How wrong can you go with that? You can't. You can't go wrong with it. And what's unique about this? Now, what's unique about this is they do kind of borrow, if you will. Sorry about that. They do borrow some elements from, like, say, the original Rudolph special. They do. I mean, let's face it, you can't have a story like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, animated movie-wise or not, without giving the lead character, Rudolph, a love interest. And that's what they did. But you see, what's different about it, though, is the difference between this movie and the special is they didn't have the father hide Rudolph's nose. They didn't have him hide it. No, instead they let him. Instead, the father's like, you know what? And it takes the mother a little bit to convince him, but But basically, the father's like, you know what? I'm not going to hide it or anything. I'm going to let him be. We're going to let him do what he has to. You know, let him be himself. We're not going to hide anything. And, you know, that's what they do. And that's the best difference there. You could tell that's more of a modern twist there because the original, made back in 1965, when you think about it, kind of played on the racial card. You see, Rudolph was more like the minority, more like the Mexicans and Filipinos and blacks that were always shunned by the whites. And that's what the original 1960 special was about. That Rudolph, because he was different, was shunned. But only a few people accepted him. And ironically, one of those people was a female love interest in Khalees. Now, again, here though, the difference is they don't do that. But it's kind of more like Rudolph's normal, kind of a normal kid, but he does have a bit of a handicap, and that's the nose. But what happens is, just like in the special, again, this is where they borrow some elements. You have a female deer, her name this time is called Zoe, who actually likes Rudolph for who he is. Yeah, she understands he's different with the nose and everything, but she's willing to accept that. And it's shown throughout the movie that she does like him, no matter what people say. So that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool interpretation, but it's also, again, the difference with it is you don't have the parents hiding the nose and stuff like that. So it's kind of, again, it's all really a unique kind of variation or a unique take, I should say, on the origin and story and on the original story. It's a unique take on it, on how Rudolph was, you know, looked at, and how others like Zoe and even Santa in here accepts him for who he is. He doesn't shun him at first and then accept him. You know, Santa here right off the bat, voiced by John Goodman, who does a great job, accepts him right off the bat. So, to me, again, it's a unique take on the origin story of Rudolph and how it all came to be. And I also like how it's also a unique take on how the storm in which Rudolph has to guide the Santa's sleigh through. I like the unique take on that because it shows that it just didn't come out of nowhere. It shows that somebody, in this case, is Stormella, who's wonderfully voiced by Whoopi Goldberg. How Stormella is like, hey, if you have anybody cross my bridge, I will unleash a storm. And she follows through on her word, which is, again, a unique take on how that storm came about. I'll be back in a second.